So, welcome to Trigger Talks, where we have conversations that are hard hitting and
Yep.
we're trying to really make mental health for everybody, mental health conversations for everybody. And I'm so happy to be talking to you, Shocka, today.
Yeah.
You know,
Pleasure talking. Yeah.
on the launch of your book section of my life. Do you want to tell us a bit about what the book's about?
So that the initial idea came from when I was sectioned last year. I was sectioned last year for about 2.5 weeks, just after my mom passed away. And I started writing poems because my auntie gave me my phone. I've been sectioned 4 times, but I've never had my phone. My mom wouldn't let me have my phone because she didn't want, I'm Nigerian, so like, Nigerians are like really private. So
Yeah,
she wouldn't want me sharing my story or talking to anyone about what's going on in there with the outside world because she took my phone away from me. My mum passed away last year, and my auntie didn't know my mum's, policies. So when my auntie was giving me my clothes and my food, she was like, "Oh, here, take your phone and your headphones." And I looked at the phone, but I didn't say nothing 'cause I didn't want to spoil what just happened. But I got back to our room and I was like, "What am I gonna do with my phone? Like, it's the first time I had my phone." So I started, but it was a blessing that my auntie actually changed the trajectory of everything. She's the reason why this book exists
mm,
because I wrote all the poems on my phone when she gave it to me, and I wrote poems every day, and I took pictures, which ended up being a video for a song called "Don't Be Ashamed," and I recorded myself in hospital, which ended up being like the pictures that's in my documentary that I've got coming up.
mm.
So like her giving me that phone was like a game changer. And then that's how I came up with the idea section of my life. Because Tupac had a poem book, was it? Yeah, a poem book called The Rose That Grew from the Concrete.
Yeah, yeah.
And I wanted something like that. I wanted like it was initially meant to be a book of poems
Hmm.
called Section of My Life, just basically about that section of my life when I was sectioned. But then the Trigger Hub family was like, if people read poems about you being sectioned, they're going to want to know more about your story. So why don't you have a book about your story and have the poems weaving in and out of the story? And I thought that was a genius idea. And
That's
then
amazing.
here we are.
And then here you are. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's amazing. So it's what it's like looking at the like, how you had your phone and how you like, and that was the one thing that was kind of keeping you connected to stuff.
Yeah.
It's one of the
Yeah.
biggest things that I find really interesting as well. Like,
Yeah.
how do you maintain your connectivity to the world? Because it's like, and we'll get into your story around being sectioned, but
Mhm.
just as an initial point, like being sectioned is like being taken away,
Yes.
right? And
Literally, you're like exiled from
yeah,
society.
and a lot of people feel like that when they get their phones taken away or they get something that's really close to them taken away. And if we go even further, looking at grief, and when somebody's taken away from us or we lose
Yeah.
somebody,
Yeah.
So yeah, I want you to like tell me a bit about like how what that was like for you being sectioned, and kind of what was the experience that you had under that experience.
When you're sectioned, it's like you don't exist.
Mm,
For the 2 weeks you're there, it's like you're less than a human being. Even though no one has said that to you, oh, you are less than a human being now that you're sectioned. But that's the feeling you kind of get, the way the nurses look at you, the kind of questions they ask you, are you all right? People constantly asking you, are you all right? I don't think there's nothing wrong with being asked, are you all right? It's a beautiful question to ask. But when you're constantly being asked it, someone just coming into your room, is everything okay over there? Are you all right? What are you doing? It's like you makes you feel, do you know what I mean? And like um not being able to leave when you want. I didn't see outside once. Obviously, after a week I was in and I was on good behavior, then you're allowed to like, go outside and take a little escort around, the place. But I chose not to take it because I didn't want to get teased. I didn't
mm,
want to go outside and start falling in love with, the environment again. And then them having to bring me back. So I decided not to leave once until I left. But like just little things like that, just being stuck in my room. And it's really boring in there too.
yeah,
People, I don't know what perception people have of mental health hospitals, mental institutions, but like you really do nothing. And that's what drives you insane even more. Because like really you're meant to go in there and have some form of activity that's going to help you with your thoughts that brought you in there in the first place. I
mm,
don't know what that is meant to be, whether it's meant to be therapy or whatever it's meant to be, but you're literally left to your own devices. Like if you went on my ward, all you would have really have seen was like patients just walking around, literally like walking around, and some of them on the computer trying to go on YouTube, and I don't know, listen to whatever music they want to listen to. They had like a pool table at some time. Um, what else was there? Then they call you for food.
Mm,
It's breakfast, morning, lunchtime, evening. Um, what else was there? Um, it's really boring. It's a
mm,
really boring place, and then the atmosphere is not really good too.
yeah,
Atmosphere is so important. Like me being in my house now, it feels homely. You know what I mean? Even though I'm not doing nothing, it feels homely. Whereas when you're in those places, the walls and everything, it just it you feel like you're being punished when you haven't actually done anything.
mm, mm, mm,
And the reason why I say atmosphere is so important is because the last hospital I was sectioned in last year was a new ward that they just built, and the atmosphere was beautiful in there. They had like positive messages on the walls, and they had a room with like a nice TV and like a games room, and that really helped just to make you feel in your mind that like you're a human. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
that really helps. So atmosphere is so important. That's one thing I want to change. If there's anything I can change about the mental health system is the atmosphere they've got in there. It's not
So,
conducive for
yeah, because
mental
the
health.
environment is important for good mental
So
health,
yeah,
definitely.
definitely.
And like, when people are having conversations around mental health care and around how, when we go into the healthcare system and like the walls are white and everything is
Yeah,
just so
yeah,
plain and there's no color and there's no
yeah,
feeling of like
yeah,
community or
yeah,
love generally there,
yeah,
everything feels so sterile.
yeah. That's exactly you described it perfectly. That's exactly my thought.
Yeah.
They need to switch up the atmosphere.
So what is it that you were sectioned for?
I was sectioned when I got sectioned the first time in 2012. They said it was manic depression because of how I was acting. I came home, had a big breakdown, screaming, shouting, moving uncontrollable, them trying to calm me down and said it was manic depression. Then the last three times I got sectioned, they said it was paranoid schizophrenia because like I was hearing voices and delusions and stuff like that. So they was like, no, this is not manic depression. This is more along the lines of schizophrenia, which
Mm,
I knew nothing about. Um, yeah, I couldn't even spell the word, as I mentioned in the book. I didn't even
yeah.
know how to spell schizophrenia. After SCH, I just leave. I don't know. I really had no idea what schizophrenia was. And as
Mm,
far as the black community goes, schizophrenia is more along the lines of like possession and something evil, or, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. So it was really hard for me to get my mind around the diagnosis. But it's cool because it made me do research into it and like really study about schizophrenia. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about um, people being in tune with the spirit world.
mm,
Some people, sorry, not in tune, that's not the right word, sensitive.
okay.
There's some people that have, gifts and they're more sensitive to the spirit world so they can see things and hear more things. And I watched a video on YouTube about it and the way he put it was really interesting to me. And it made a lot of sense because when I do see people talking to themselves on the streets, which you've all seen, I've got so many in my area, they
Mm,
do look like they're in a different, you know what I mean, dimension to
a
everyone
different
else.
world,
And
yeah,
like,
completely.
it's a world, but we just don't have the language to articulate it. But
Mm,
um, yeah, it's interesting.
yeah. So what has kind of been your experience with mental health? Like, I feel like when it comes to looking at the Black community and looking at particular areas of inner city London, like we see, like you just mentioned, with regards to schizophrenia and that perception of it being about possession and spirits and just darkness generally, right? What was your experience with mental health growing up? Because I know that for me, I really wanted to go to therapy from a like, late teens, so say 18, 19, probably 20.
That's
But yeah, but I didn't mention it. I didn't feel like I could talk about it because I felt like when my family or my community talked about mental health, it was very much like, oh, are you this kind of level of sick? Are you
yeah, yeah,
that level?
yeah,
And
yeah,
why don't you go to church in order for you to kind of
yeah.
get your head around it? So what was that like for you, or was it just a similar experience? I'd love for you to share.
It was a similar experience to you. The only difference was I didn't want to go therapy. I never knew nothing about therapy. Being in the area that I come from, Tottenham, I can count how many times I heard that word therapy growing up. Probably like twice
Mm,
or five times max. No one ever mentioned therapy. I never knew one person that even went to therapy. if I knew, it might have intrigued me, especially if it was one of the man, someone around me. I would have thought, oh, that's interesting. What's that like? What's has it, especially if I saw improvements too.
Yeah.
If I saw them go from being in a bad state, go to therapy, and go back to being in a good state, I definitely would have um you know gave it a shot or even tried to see where they're coming from. But no one ever spoke about therapy. Even most of the mental health language that I'm learning about now, like bipolar and manic depression and therapy and um, breakdowns and episodes and sections, all this language has just come recently in the last 10 years. Prior to that, this world did not exist to me, which I'm really grateful that in a way, I'm grateful for my breakdown because um, it introduced me into a world that I never knew people was going through.
Mm.
So it's made me really empathetic towards like
Yeah.
people. When people say the word depression or say I'm having a bad time, I know how to respond to it.
Mm.
Before I just dismiss it and just be like how the normal answer we got like, bro, pattern up, man. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but now I know how to respond because I've been there. So I know like there's different levels of depression. Everyone's depression can be different. And
Yeah.
that's what that community, especially the older generation, get wrong. They feel like because what you're going through is not on the same level as what they went through growing up, it can't be depression. But that's not the same. Everyone's life is tailor made.
Mm.
Um, everyone's life is tailor made to them. You know what I
Oh,
mean? So what someone else can bear might be completely different to what you can bear, but it doesn't mean that they're not carrying their cross too. So that was important for me to know.
absolutely right. Absolutely right. And I wanted to ask like what led you there? I know you said that you said that your mum passed away.
Yes,
And yeah,
yes.
did that was that the thing? Was that the trigger essentially that led you to having these
Led me
experiences?
there. No, that was the last time.
Oh, okay,
I've been there 4 times.
okay,
So the first section was the trigger for that was my group,
hmm,
the group that I was in.
yeah,
We got dropped from a record label, and that was the
yeah,
trigger for that, having to deal with all that pressure. The second time I got section was coming off medication, and the whole shock of that whole first time processing all of that. That was a lot to process. You can imagine like living a normal life and now you've gone into being sectioned and now you're on the system. It's a lot to deal with. The third time was me going on holiday with my friend, which I mentioned in the book as well. He signed a record deal. He booked
mm,
a flight for Magaluf and have a good time. And then that me not taking my medication again that time and drinking alcohol and that whole experience just triggered it. And the fourth time was my mum passing away last year on the 2nd of February. That was a shell shock because I'm my only child.
mm,
And um, yeah, having a loss like that and the whole process as well. She had cancer. So it's not like my mum just passed away from like a sudden thing. Like I just got a phone call that she passed away or something happened. This is something I watched gradually.
yeah,
So
slow
like
decline, yeah,
slow decline. You know what I mean? So I had to deal with all of those. I didn't have I don't know if I processed that whole process the correct way, if you know what I mean.
yeah,
And yeah, I had to deal with that. Even after my mum passed, it took a while for me to be able to find memories of her in my mind being healthy.
mm,
All the memories I had was like the last memories of how I saw her, and that was really playing with me because I couldn't dig back in my mind and find memories of like when she was normal and like what that experience, what those times of like I was like all her last memories covered all of that up, and that was really difficult.
mm,
And then yeah, that triggered me,
mm.
and yeah, I ended up in section for the fourth time.
Oh man, yeah, man. Sorry to hear that, and I think that it's just testament to your courage
Yeah,
and just kind of like it's I think sometimes we kind of end up going on these cycles round and round
yeah,
sometimes because we are, as we are growing through different life cycles at different points. As you said, it was like one one disappointment, one letdown, one loss, one change that kind of just tipped you from one side to the next.
yeah,
Um, but you're here. You've written your book. You're talking about it. You put all of that energy into your music. And
yeah.
I wanted to I ask like, what were some of the coping mechanisms that you found yourself getting into, like whether they would be healthy ones or unhealthy ones. Because I feel like it's good to, when I work with a lot of men therapeutically, because I'm a clinical therapeutic coach as well, and I'm training as a psychotherapist, and I work with a lot of men. And one of the big things that I end up working with them on is around coping mechanisms,
Yeah,
how we shift what they look like. So I'll be interested
yeah.
to hear what you think around your coping mechanisms before, and what kind of coping mechanisms you have now. And if you are just in the process of trying to change them, it doesn't have to be a complete or finished.
Um, the coping mechanisms I had before, I never really had any. That's why I was in trouble. That's why I was so like vulnerable in that sense because I didn't even know I had nothing. Like I
But
had
some
nothing.
people, but some people have negative ones, like they go to drink, they go to gambling, they go to
Yeah,
loads of different stuff. So they may think they
yeah,
don't have any, but they sometimes ended up doing the stuff
yeah.
they didn't think.
I never had gambling addiction
Mm.
or drug addictions. I had the normal men addictions, like watching, you know what videos I'm talking about.
Hmm. Yeah,
I had, I had those addictions. I had those addictions, definitely. I don't know if that's a coping mechanism. Well, it could be, but
definitely. Yeah.
yeah, definitely a coping mechanism. Never had drinking, never smoked. I've never smoked in my whole entire life, and everyone's so surprised about that. But I've never ever smoked. Um, So my coping mechanisms, I've never really had any good ones. It's only now I've kind of got good ones. Because I've been sectioned so many times. I've been sectioned enough times to be able to have enough information about me to study what I'm doing wrong, what I'm thinking. Because I used to be an obsessive thinker, still am, but I know how to control it. And the reason why it's scary being an obsessive thinker is that you don't stop obsessing about that thought until it's landed you in um, the wrong place.
Mm.
So I'll obsess about what's going on. And I'll only stop after like, I'm in crisis. Now I know that when I see myself obsessing, I can put a stop to it by showing myself what's going to happen if I continue.
Mm.
When I first started becoming an obsessive thinker, there wasn't no outcome out of it. So I didn't know where I was going with it. Now, because I've done it like 3 times, I know
Yeah.
like, yo, if you keep obsessing about this thing that's bothering you, that's why I did the Never Worry
Yeah.
poem. That's a big part of like my philosophy about not worrying. I hate worrying, and
Mm.
that because to be such a warrior. So when I see myself obsessing and worrying about certain things, I'll just show myself an image of myself in hospital and be like, yo, you keep you
Yeah.
keep doing this is where you're going, and it cuts it. And like I've also got a lot of videos saved on my phone. I save videos that make me smile. It could be anything. It could be a comedic video. It could
Mm.
be a motivational video, because I think videos have frequencies and they can take you back to that moment you was in when you saw them. So every time I wake up in the morning, one of the first things I do is go on my save videos. I watch like 5 of them, and that automatically gets me charged up, gets me back in the energy I was when I first saw the videos. Then I start my day, but I always have to make sure that I'm back in that place. And I didn't know the power of content. That's why content's so powerful, but people don't use content in the right way. They
Yeah.
just use it, just watch it and then leave it. But you can actually retain that energy you got from the content.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean?
You just reminded me of something as well, because like I get so caught up sometimes because I work in this space, and
Yeah,
I support a lot of people a lot of the time, and it's a very much a vocation, but it's also a helping profession. So you're kind of always trying you're especially in my role at Trigger as a content manager, I'm consuming loads of mental health content. When I'm working with people, I'm consuming a lot of their stuff and just learning how to help them through. And I never forget that before I did any of this, I remember having this saved folder on Instagram called "For When Times Get Harder." You've just reminded me that I have that, and I'm gonna go
yeah,
back and have a look at it after this. But it's important though, because you save those
yeah,
in times when you're feeling okay, and you think, "Oh, this is a good video
yeah,
for when I'm feeling
yeah,
low."
exactly. It's
Yeah.
so important. I have that on every platform. I have that on TikTok. I've got if you go on my save videos on TikTok, I've got a bunch there. I've got a bunch on Instagram. And I like to surround my world with positivity. So if something infiltrates, I know where it's coming from. if your world's messy and something infiltrates, you won't know where it's coming from because your world is, you know, like when you just clean your room and it's spotless,
Yeah.
all the dirt starts to stick out. So that's what I try to do. I try to put my mind in like fold it like nice and neatly. So whenever something's bothering me, I can see where it's sticking out from immediately. I never used to do that before. Everything was so messy, so I didn't know where I was getting attacked from.
Yeah.
That's might start feeling bad for no reason. I don't know where that's coming from. And that could be residue from like 2 weeks ago. Whereas now I'll be scrolling on my timeline, and if I feel away, I'll scroll back up and be like, what did I just see that made me feel like that? And why did it make me feel like that? Why didn't the other video? Why was that one? Do you know what I mean? Why did that make my, body,
Mm,
my stomach start? Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
I'm really, I'm really like careful because people always say, "Oh, Shocka, you don't follow anyone." I do follow people, but a lot of people said, "Oh, you didn't follow me back. You're so bougie." And I'm like, I'm not bougie. I'm just protecting my space.
There
I
you are.
don't know what on your timeline like, and that's gonna infiltrate me. I was scrolling my timeline, like, whoa, where did this come from?
Yeah.
So like, every follow is carefully tailored to like
Yeah.
match what I represent. So
All
I
right.
don't follow you.
Let's get into that then. Let's get into social media and what this looks like, right?
Yeah,
How do you like? So you said you carefully curate kind of the content or the things that you see and the kind of um the things that you experience on there.
yeah,
And I think that's personally really important. I've had to do that myself in a lot of different ways because the algorithm will only respond to how you respond to the
yes,
algorithm
exactly,
because
exactly.
you're quote unquote in control of a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to explicitly give to people to help them protect their mental health online and to help them protect their mental health, especially if they are public figures or if they are slowly becoming more popular in some areas, or even if they're not? Just what are some of the things that you would suggest?
I would say realize how much power that you have. Because some people feel like they don't even have power to organize their social media. It's just meant to be, random and how it is. But no, like you can actually create your own world on it. You can follow who you want to follow. You can post what you want to post. You can delete what you want to delete. So you have to decide what would you want your ideal world to be like on social media? How would you like to come across? What feeling would you like to leave people leaving with? Would you like the amount of people that's told me that at late nights, at the middle of the night, they just come on my page and just scrolled and scrolled and scrolled and nearly got to the bottom because they got lost in the content. That's
Mm,
beautiful. That's what I make it for. I've done that myself, not to toot my own horn, but I've gone on my own page and looked at some of the content and got to like 10 and thought, oh, this is really good. And that's
yeah.
me. As in someone outside of me, they must like,
Doing that,
you
yeah.
know, and so like it's up to you to really create what you want your world to be like. I know
Yeah.
what I want my timeline to be like. I see my screen time sometimes and it'll say like you spent 14 hours yesterday or something like that. But like I'm not mad because I understand why I spent 14 hours. It's my
Mm,
world. I created it that way. If I was in someone else's world for 14 hours, then that's really bad. But because like it's my world and it's not affecting me, it's doing good. It's not
yeah.
like I'm just doing nothing. I'm most of the time I'm studying. Everyone I watch on my socials are like really inspirational and educational. So I'm
Yeah.
always learning. Every time I scroll, it's a new video of information. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's important as well, knowing what you're consuming too. So sometimes I end up doing that as well. I'm just scrolling, but I know that because I spent a lot of time at one point training the algorithm to let
yes,
me know what kind of videos I want to see. So
yeah,
if it doesn't make me laugh, if it doesn't make me feel inspired to learn something new or take
exactly,
notes, then
exactly,
I don't want it. I don't want it, and I'll report it. I'll say, "I don't show me this anymore," all that
exactly.
stuff.
In that sense, that's when social media becomes fun. Social media is actually a beautiful thing if you're using it in the right way. I
Right?
think everything's double duty. Everything's positive and negative. If you use social media in the right way, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Like I went viral on social media, my first freestyle. You know what
Okay.
I mean? Like,
Yeah.
which happened in the book as well, that Gigs
Yeah.
posted.
Yeah.
That was amazing to me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, that's what I use social. As soon as I came on social media, my first thoughts was, how can I make an impact? How can I help? How can I? Do you know what I mean? And I found it. So whatever you're looking for when you come on social media, you will find it. But
Yeah.
hopefully, it's you know, positive.
So if you like in writing this book,
Yeah.
what were some of the challenge? Like, obviously, it's challenging content. So I just want to know what some of the challenging parts of the book for you to write were, and
Whew.
what were some of the positives that came from it. Because again, just as a disclaimer, I wrote my book, and when I wrote that, I went through some things. I was
Yeah,
I was definitely in therapy. It was the
yeah,
pandemic. It was a lot happening, and it was hard, and it felt
yeah,
like just getting something really just out of me and away from me.
yeah.
I needed it just
That's
to be
how
away from me for a long
that's,
time.
that's how I feel. But it's like even at the book launch when everyone had a copy of my book, it nearly triggered me because I was like, oh my God, it just hit me that everyone's actually walking away with my life. It's not like
Yeah,
these are some made stories that I mean, or some made up
it's
superheroes.
no
They're
longer
gonna,
yours. It's no longer
yeah,
yours. Yeah.
that's literally my whole life on it. So I think the challenging part of writing this book was deciding how honest I'm gonna be. Like, there's a bit where I'm talking about when I got sectioned the first time
Yeah.
uh, in the ambulance, I screamed out, "I'm Rex 3 too." You know what I mean? And I put that in the book, and my next door neighbor was like, "You're not Rex Reed," you know what I mean? And like, because that's one of my heroes, and I explained after that, like,
Yeah.
he's one of
Yeah.
my heroes, like, whatever. But like, I just posted something just now, and Rex just commented, like, a positive comment, like, "Oh, champion," positive comment. And in my head, I was like, "Oh my God, you probably ordered like a copy of my book, or you're gonna read my book, and you're gonna see that line." I think, how the fuck did I end up in this book? So like, shit like that, and I have to see him, and he's probably gonna be like, "Bro, how did I end up in your ambulance experience?" And we're gonna laugh about it. So it's like all of that stuff, but it's my truth at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I had to be extremely honest about it. There's other stuff when I experience some of the spiritual things I experienced in hospital, like feeling like I was being attacked and stuff like that that I mentioned in my book. Um, there's just all these things that I was deciding like how honest am I going to be? Like how in depth am I going to be for this book? But I'm proud of it and I'm happy I did dive that deep. And
No,
hopefully people respond to it the right way. But it's been getting beautiful feedback so far.
it's amazing. I mean, so in your ideal world, who do you want to hand this book to, and what do you want them to feel when they read it? Oh,
You
no,
know what?
you can't control what they feel, but what do you want? What would you ideal?
My main goal, one of my main goals for the book was for people to understand me a bit better.
Mm,
But that's what I'm always trying to do as an artist or whatever I do is trying to build connection.
yeah,
Same way my art build connection with me. Like I'm a big Kendrick Lamar fan, which I said in the book. There's a chapter called "Thank You Kendrick Lamar,"
yeah,
and I feel like I know him. I've never met the guy in my life, but I know his dad's name. I know his mum's name. I know his little sister.
mm,
I know she got pregnant really young. You know what I mean? I know everything about him. And like he's built such a connection with me, and I always vowed that I want to do the same thing with my audience. I want my audience to be able to go on a game show for £1 million, and they ask them what topic would you want to pick to win this money, and they say, do you know what I mean? And they win it. That means so. I want my fans to have like a good connection, a good sense of like who I am. Obviously, I can't share everything, but
no,
um, enough, just enough to build that connection. That is
yeah.
really important.
It's one thing that you're gonna like. One thing that I was gonna mention was around connection, and then and as you just said, you're building that connection with
Yeah,
people to
connection, yeah, it's everything, especially
make,
as
yeah.
an artist or fighter or whatever you do. It's so important.
Absolutely, absolutely. As a writer, for me, it's like building that connection with the audience and readers is important. It's so big. Building the connection with people to make sure that you're operating on a level where you're in this together.
Yes,
You're telling stories that are important for people to hear
yeah,
and to see, and to kind of get them through the next thing. And that's one of the big things around what we do at Trigger with regards to bibliotherapy, helping people
yeah,
connect with stories to get to the next place that they need to be
yeah.
and to kind of make sense of what they're going through as well. And I use bibliotherapy in my practice too, and I make sure
What's
that
your book about? Sorry to cut you. What is your book about?
my book is called Time to Talk. I'm gonna
Yeah,
share my
yeah,
copy. It's kind of the title
yeah,
copy, my actual
yeah,
copy. My good copy's over there. It's in my title copy, the one I use for referencing. It's called Time to
yeah,
Talk, how men think about love, belonging, and connection. So um and it was conversations with men around mental health
yeah,
and their experiences, but not from a clinical perspective. At the time I was writing it from a journalistic perspective because I was a journalist. Um and I was really trying to get to the root of it. Like, what does it mean to belong? What does it mean to connect? What does it mean to experience love in this way? And how do we get from the places of mental imbalance to kind of this place where I can come to you, Shocka, and say, yo, I'm going through some stuff, and I
mm,
really want to talk to you about it. And I don't expect you to have all the answers, but I want to feel like I'm loved. I want to be
yeah,
connected with you, and I want to belong in this space.
that's,
So
yeah,
that's pretty much where I was coming from on that journey too. So I
okay,
completely understand what you're saying, man. It's a big thing.
definitely.
Yeah. So when we talk about bibliotherapy, like for me, like books were a big thing that helped me get through some of the difficult times.
Mm,
Um, Talk to me about how music really changed the way
mm,
that you navigate your life. Because you said the first imbalance, the first experience you had was when your group was when the group kind of was something happened with the group. So
yeah,
that's it. That means that shows how much music means to you. But
yeah,
what does music
definitely.
mean to you?
Music is like what this did for me. What this did, like being able to express myself in this book. I've been doing that through music. My music is like some people can't believe how dark my music can get sometimes because I'm such a light-hearted person. But the reason why I like that is because if I don't get that out in the music, it's gonna come out as a person. So I would rather get it out in the music so I can be light as a person and affect everyone I meet in a positive way than keeping that in as a person. You know what I mean? So I'm so happy I had that creative outlet. I think it doesn't matter what creative, it doesn't have to be music, your creative outlet that you have, but you need something, whether you're an author and you write books, whether you paint, whether you sing, whether you act, you need something to get all of that energy out. And I'm so happy I had music. If you listen to my music, I don't know if you have, but um, it's got everything in there. It's like the book part two, but just audio version. And my music is really because healing, as I mentioned in the book, healing is a big theme for me. I don't
Mm,
know why I thought that with me, but I'm always attempting to heal in some sort of way. Whether I'm doing it for a book, I'm helping myself heal when others heal. Whether I'm doing it for a spoken word, I'm helping myself heal when others heal. Whether I'm doing it through music, I'm helping myself heal when others heal. That's always the theme.
mm,
Healing is always the theme.
okay, amazing, amazing. Um, when you're putting that into your music
Yeah,
in the particular genre that you work within, like
yeah.
how how easy is that being accepted? Is that being taken as part of like this is the narrative, this is the culture now? Do you know? Like, you know, when
Yeah,
it came to grime and other areas of like black music, they weren't really talking about mental health
yeah,
in the stuff, but we were talking about it in a kind of um in an indirect way. Like these
yeah,
are things that are happening to me, and this is what I'm doing to kind of focus on that. But
yeah.
when you
That's
explicitly
why
start talking about
I left
mental health, what does that look like?
That's why I left grime. I'm not
Mm,
saying there's nothing wrong with grime. I'm a child of grime. I love grime so
mm,
much. But I left grime because the content wasn't evolving at the speed I was evolving at. I
mm,
mean, when I'm a section and I put a grime beat on, I was like, no, I can't talk
yeah.
about medication on this.
It's a particular energy, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah, it's a particular energy. So I went into hip hop, and when I went into the hip hop world, that's when I started finding the Kendrick Lamars and the J.
yeah,
Cole and the Pacs and the Nas's, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. They're all doing this here. Tupac's talking about um, I got shot 5 times and I'm still breathing. Living proof there's a God if you need a reason. I mean, like he's
yeah,
like. So I started doing that in hip hop and it just fitted perfectly. And then, yeah, I've been expressing myself that way ever since.
yeah. In many years, like when people look back at your career and your advocacy, like what is one of the one things that you hope they remember or have learned from your journey?
Um, that he wanted to impact, that I wanted to impact as much people in a positive way. Like even the first poem that the book starts off with, impactful legacy. That basically sums up. The book should have ended there.
Yeah.
That basically sums up everything. Like um, Bob Marley, I got him tattooed on my shoulder. That's an inspiration of mine. And I look at the legacy he left. I'm so happy I can see it because it's like a blueprint. He impacted so many ripple effects of how he impacted people with music, with everything. So that's what I want my legacy to be. I want everyone to have a story. I want everyone to have a positive story of how Shocka impacted me. Oh, he paid for this for me one time. It was so random. I asked him and he did it. Or I did an interview with him and I only had 100 followers and I thought he won't do it because he was verified and he did it. Or he came to my interview. I mean, I want everyone to have different. I think ripple effects are important. You just never know how the ripple effect, where the ripple effect can go to, how far
Yeah,
it can go to. So
yeah,
it's like that's what I want my legacy to be. I want it to be so many mini ripple effects. When DMX passed away, I think it was last year, people were shocked posting all these videos of him like dancing in traffic and just these little videos that we would have never seen. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? Little ripple effects he made. Like he made that person's day seeing DMX. Even there was another one where he came into the shop to buy something and the shopkeeper filmed it. It's like a random shop in the corner. DMX came in to buy something and like, do you know what I mean? So I want to have that's my legacy. I want my legacy to be like tiny, tiny positive ripple effects. So
yeah,
many of them. So many.
yeah.
That's a legacy.
Amazing.
And I want to have a good name. There's a pastor that I listen to called Joshua Selman, and he said at the end of your life, your name can either be a padlock or a key. And he was
Mm,
like, you want it to be a key, not a padlock. Because if it's a key, other people can use it. If it's a padlock, then I mean, you just close the door on your whole family. And he's right. I want my name to be a key. I want you to be able to use it. Like you go somewhere, oh yeah, I used to be Shocka. Oh, really? Oh, come in. Oh, you think, oh shit, that's sick. Like
yeah,
I just, you know what I mean, like there's certain names that's like, um, there's certain names that's keys. Like me having Bob Marley tattooed on my shoulder, I'm proud to have it. I mention it all the time. It's not like I'm thinking, oh man, something just came out that he did. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? Now I've got it covered up because I didn't. His name's a key. Like so you want your name to be a key, not a padlock. So that's I'm always thinking about that at every decision. I hope I don't padlock my name on. Do you know what I mean? So just constantly trying to make sure my name is a key.
That's amazing, man. It's amazing. Um, okay, so what do you have planned next? What's next for you? So
Oh
you got the
God,
book, you know,
I've got the book.
you're an author, you're a big
I'm
boy
an
author now,
author.
you're doing signing pictures, you know, you're doing all them things. Look at you, section of life.
I'm an
Um,
author.
what is your
I've got an
what
album.
what's your future stuff looking like?
Got the album coming out. Vulnerability is new cool is my album. I'm about to start releasing singles from that. I
Yeah,
did a documentary of ITV that comes out in 3 weeks. Like
3 weeks.
big documentary. Me and Alex Beresford. I don't know if you know who he is.
Yeah, yep,
But we did the documentary together. I did another documentary which is about to get screened in cinemas. I'm going to send you a ticket actually,
yeah.
which is about to get screened in cinemas twice. There's a friends and family screening on the 25th. Then there's a public and industry on the 10th of October, which happens to be World Mental Health Day as well.
Yeah,
Um, I've got a university tour that I'm about to do, courtesy of Trigger and the whole family.
yeah.
There's so much happening. There's so much happening that I'm excited for. There's so much
Amazing,
good things happening. Oh,
amazing.
I got nominated for an award. I got an award coming up in November.
Oh,
It's
say
the Royal.
swear. Okay, okay. Which award is that?
I got nominated for overcoming that two nominations actually, overcoming adversity
Yeah.
and mental health nomination. So
Okay.
uh, yeah,
That's
it's
amazing.
exciting time.
That's fantastic, Shocka, man. Like
Yeah,
proper happy for you, man. Looking forward to seeing what comes from all of this and what your next steps look like. You know, yeah,
yeah,
these and it's an important, you know, excuse the pun, it's an important section of your life generally,
yeah.
like
No,
because
literally. That's
yeah,
why I cut them there because my publisher was like, all these amazing things are happening to you. So you don't want to add them into the book? And I was like, nah, because I want them to see the journey afterwards
right.
and be like, oh, that's amazing that he's, you
They
know what I
know where
mean? Like,
know where you're coming from. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
All right. So people they can access your book through the Trigger website
Trigger
and
website.
and several links below as well.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be putting those in the description.
Yeah,
And you know, it's going to be on the Biblio app as well, and it's available for bulk purchase for all educational institutions and workplaces. You know, if you want to get Shocka in there to talk about all the stuff that he's been through and his vision for moving forward within mental health, but also purchase a book. We're gonna,
yeah,
you know, we need to get it up there. We need to get it out there. And we need to get people to really feel the change and feel the shift as well. So, but thank you so much, Shaka.
yeah.
So much for this. Um,